Okay, so, for some reason, at the 11th hour, broadcast decided to shit itself. So we had no camera, hence the last 5 minutes. We've also got, unfortunately, because broadcast decided to shit itself, I've got no microphone filter at the moment. So if you've got a lot of background noise and it's getting annoying, let me know. I'll try and do something about it, but I'm not going to cock about with it whilst I'm on stream. Or maybe I will, I don't know, let's find out. The other downside is that just as I sat down to do this, just before that, I managed to stab myself in the eye with my glasses. So my left eye now is basically just leaking and doing all sorts of nasty. I don't think I've cut myself, but yeah. So, do you know when you're just like, do you know what, maybe I'll just go to bed and it'll be tomorrow and it'll be fine. But good evening anyway. Good to see that you're all here. Good evening to Sloth, to Sakaragord, to AV, to Dell, Rashmorder, Jackal, Tech Zero, John Chavez, Adam Pennington, Ray Lauderbeck, Matthew, Andy Benson, Stimpack, STE, Chavez. I think that's pretty much everyone at the moment that I can see. Apteryx, good evening, good to see you. Yeah, so it's hopefully it's going to be okay. I will have a bit of a muck around. Oh, that'll be why. Okay, so we're going to go mic in on that one. We've got noise removal. Now, let's see if this works. I might go mute just for a second. Let's find out. La. Oh, okay, that worked. Sorry, that was probably really loud. So hopefully that's the background filter now in. Again, let me know if it's doing anything. Why am I all the way over? Come here. Let's move the arm slightly. There we go. Good. Fantastic. We're here. Yeah. So, here we go then. I wish I knew what the hell I was doing now. It doesn't really feel like it. One of these days, eh? One of these days, I'm going to figure this stuff out. But it is not today. Okay, I'm hoping I've still got it on low latency, which I have. Good, so I should be able to talk to you guys fairly reasonably. Yeah, someone said about June. No, I haven't played the new June. Don't intend to make this stream about that. You know, if people are having fun in it, that's great, but I haven't given it a go yet. Just doesn't seem like it's going to be my thing, you know? Yeah, no, the thumbnail is kind of it. The thumbnail is the thumbnail because I do remember, you know, when we first saw the video, and do you know what? Let's see if we can find it, right? For those that don't remember, there was a very first, I think it was the Gamescom 2016, there was the reveal of the Sandworm that became a little bit of a meme, right? We were sent down to the. Oh, that was loud. Sorry, didn't mean to do that to you. We were sent down to the surface of the planet, and there was a sandworm and all this sort of stuff. That's not what this is. This is something else entirely. But yeah, it was basically one of the streams that they did, and we had we went down to a planet. There was the whole Crash Javelin. They talked about, you know, going there and flying that mission and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, obviously, because things took ages, as they do with Star Citizen, it just became like this whole, yeah, it was clickbait, it was just marketing fluff, we're never going to see it. And then, of course, we saw it at CitizenCon, and they said, this is actual gameplay, this isn't, you know, a video, and it got people cheering. And but still, it's really kind of hard to, you know, we've seen lots of things in very advanced states as far as Star Citizen goes that doesn't make it into the game, and yet it, you know, here it is. After all this time, all this stuff, all these things that we were told that we weren't getting, and we got it. You know, it arrived, it appeared, it was a whole thing. Yeah, it was really quite incredible. Does anyone remember what that video is. Does anyone remember that? Thank you, Stimpack, I appreciate it. Hey, Groove, it's good to see you. So yeah, there's that going on. That's all very exciting. 4.2 came out. I don't think they're selling the ICT yet, are they? Despite what people were saying in terms of, you know, it definitely was going to be sold and all that sort of stuff. Maybe it'll get sold later, but I haven't seen it for sale. Hey, Joe Buggett, Sloth, exactly that. You know, we've been told, and this is one of the times. You know what? You get to be a little bit happy about it, and by a little bit, I mean a lot. Right? We've been rewarded for the patience. We've been rewarded for dealing with it. We've been rewarded for fighting through all the bugs. And not only is it the Sandworm, it's a variation of the Sandworm. It's a thing with this chuffing rate, the ability to spew acid at us, or whatever it is, a radiated goop, right? It's kind of exciting that this thing's in, and we get to go toe to toe with it. It's impressive. It's nice that it's there, and you know, I'm just really pleased that for all of us that kind of stuck it out and dealt with it and did all the stuff that we did, that's it. We're there. Right, I found it. Hopefully you don't get a burst of audio. Was it CitizenCon 2016? It was. Yeah, there you go. So this is the end. I'm gonna play this in the background because this whole sequence is kind of cool. Just while we talk, because it's more fun than looking at my face, right? There's a lot of things on this planet that are more fun than looking at my face. But it's also fun to kind of watch this stuff in the background, because you kind of begin to realise just how far we've come. Right, in terms of graphics, in terms of game design, in terms of all that sort of stuff, you know. So we've gone up, we found the crashed javelin, and we're going to run around. Like the exterior detail, the whole detail is massively different. You know, it's pretty impressive. Been really fun fighting it a couple times over the weekend, says Sloth. I'm really glad you've enjoyed. Tex says, I remember the video. Land in a Connie, drive an Ursa, sand people appear, steer a dragonfly. This is this bit. Arrived at a crashed ship base. More dragonflies arrive. Sandworm. And this was the bit where everyone was saying that it wasn't going to happen. And what I find really interesting is something they said, and if needs be, we'll go and find it. We'll go and find it, but it's something they said at CitizenCon, which just kind of makes me feel really kind of confident about the way the Sandworm's being implemented. Nice little neck stab there. The takedowns have obviously gotten a lot better as well. You know, because again, this video is an example of something that hasn't happened. We haven't had these sandstorms. We've got something like that, but the dynamic moving storms, obviously this is scripted, of course it is, but then what it does to the area around it's kind of cool, as it starts to rip off some of the bits off the roof that they put there as a... Right, kind of cool. So that's kind of exciting. That one was supposed to be a free-roaming giant Sandworm you may or may not encounter, not a set piece. Yeah, really interesting, boss. That's what I want to go and have a look at with regards to the CitizenCon piece. So we'll have a look at that in a little while. I can't remember. Oh, it was the boss bit, wasn't it? It was the armors. They were talking about the armors because they said, here are all the armors. Now that we've got our team, including that friend, let's see what they're going to fight. And we went into that. And they just said something really interesting about what the worm was doing that goes to exactly what you were saying there, boss. So, you know, stick around. That's going to be useful. Apteryx, I've never seen so much sale and trading going on in-game as this patch. The fact they haven't sold the ICT makes me believe in the 1.0 version because I can see it working. Yeah. It's interesting that they've suddenly gone to this, like the armor's now recognizable in-game and all that sort of stuff. You know, we got these sort of, I don't know whether that was supposed to be lootable and it just didn't work, but, you know, the idea of containers and stuff. That's kind of a weak point, I think, in the game at the minute, is coloured crates to tell you what rough stuff you can roughly guess is in them. has been around in gaming forever, and we can probably do better. But, you know, it's everything in its time, right? Sorry, the audio's probably a little loud. I've just realised. Let's knock that back a little. There we go. There we go. Bad audio. So yeah, so this was the landed, drove down, came down here, and then... Uh-oh, we got incoming. But just in terms of the detail, the surface of the planet, all that sort of stuff. But for those who aren't familiar with this, they talked during this... So this is a recap video, so it doesn't have the audio on it. It's someone talking over the top. But what they talked about here was the idea that you could... This is how some of the major capital ships would be found. You would find them in this sort of state, and then it would be an org mission to rebuild them. Whether that's still the plan now, I don't know, but I do really like that as an idea, and I really hope they implement it. Really hope they implement it. So yeah. So I've never seen something sound in trade, so I did read that out of text. Chat, if you play SCC regularly, please add me to your friends list. My gamer tag is StimPackSTE. Jammy says, been backing since 2015, been playing more in the last 2 months than the prior 9 years combined. Absolutely. And here you go. This is obviously a set piece. But this was the bit we were told. I saw so many comments, this is never coming. They're never going to get this far. Blah, blah, blah. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. Boom. I've seen this bit so many times. I knew when that happened, so I could say it. I'm having a bit of a nerd moment. I'm having a bit of a woo. We were told by some in the community, by some doomsayers, by the people who love to salt farm, that this wasn't going to happen. And now they're going to behave like it's no big deal, after telling us all that we were nutters for believing it. The look of planet tech and how far that has come. The fact that the cloud here just looks like part of the surface, because the top of the clouds are so flat, and that's not how clouds work. Right? So quite an impressive little... I'm sure he did. But yeah, so there's that. Let's jump back across, and then I'm going to find this CitizenCon bit for you whilst we're talking. And then we'll go and have a look at the news and everything else that's come out this week. But, you know, like I said to you guys, I try not to do clickbait, or if I do, it's just an interesting take on what I'm talking about. So here we are. This is something... I'm going to keep repeating it because it's that important. You know, we were told that it would never come, and now they're going to have to just shut the fuck up a little. You know, we were told it would never be pyro, we were told it would never be server meshing was impossible, we were told this would never come, we were told that it was vaporware for ages, and then the vaporware thing kind of went away, and, you know, there's been lots of this that's been very, very, very frustrating for us. So I do not think that there is anything wrong with being excited over the fact that one of those things has happened. So let's have a look at the original pitch, shall we? So I'm just going to knock the music back for a second. Let's have a look. I'll jump you across now. That was good timing. That was almost like I planned it, right? Just going to knock the volume up a bit, just so you can hear what they say. We'll watch the video as well. Crash Jam still in game. Would be interesting. Probably that location's not suitable at the minute. So this is the way it was sold, that you would find these locations, that you would then have to go down to the ground, you'd have to do things to cause it to come up, just like with Hathor, with the station moving and causing all the vibration. So this is the CitizenCon, so you can hit the crowd as well. I, obviously, there was a couple of us here sat in the audience for this, and oh my god, this was quite the moment, right? Even CRG acknowledged the joke. I don't know if you heard that. Someone just went, "Yes, let's go!" We heard that at the back of the hall. So it's got the spit ability. So basically, the only thing we're lacking here is the randomness of it spawning in. That's it. Boom. Just an extra spit, just to make sure the dude's dead. Gib objecting, maybe? They've even said now that there'll be like a little hill where it disappears, where it pops up, because of all the moved sand. They should have had the Wilhelm scream on the top of that. That would have just been Chef's Kiss. This thing is not happy. Oh. So yeah, so let's get to the bit where they actually kind of talk about it a little, because I'm sure we've all seen this bit ad nauseum. It's the bit that they talk about that I really want to cover here.
Oh, that was cathartic. Absolute cinema as far as I'm concerned. The teams at CIG have worked so incredibly hard to get to the point where what we just showed you was no tricks, no hacks, just gameplay of the Valakar. I love you too, Groncy. I want to give a huge thank you to all the people who put in a lot of work to get to the point where what we just showed you is gameplay.
They did, Chad,
As you
right.
can imagine,
Mark, excellent.
all of
Good
that
to see you.
is work in progress. We have some good polishing to do on it, and we didn't want to hold it off. We just wanted to give you an honest view of where we are. That was from a build last week, so...
Be interested to know what ship they used.
With that said, monster hunting is coming to Star Citizen. And the best part was starting off this epic series of fights with the infamous Valakar, who some of you may remember from 2016. This
only took 9
monster
years.
of a creature is 300 meters long and sees your light fighters just as puny little ants. You're going to need to assemble your quickest and most nimble pilots to dodge the Valakar's ranged attacks, as well as your fastest drivers to bait out the Valakar from the surface, as it's the only way to bring this mighty creature out of the ground is by disturbing the surface with a ground vehicle. But how does the Valakar stack up to our crew?
Question is this worth doing in like the Tonk?
Unfortunately, the Valakar stats don't really fit on the screen due to being so powerful. But for some context, it's around 150 times harder to kill than an Aegis Avenger Titan. But to be fair, it's most likely to kill you. So how does it do that? Well, the deadly Valakar has a variety of ways of killing possible threats. So for a high-level overview of the fight, it regurgitates rock-hard sand that has been compressed inside the Valakar and uses it as a projectile to target foes. But if something's a bit too
Would love
close
to see it in
for
a
comfort
fight
in the
against
sky,
880
it
Geos
uses its ginormous
doing a
body to
Titanfall
swipe
style
ships out
drop.
the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything on the ground that it sees
Very
as a
cool.
threat will have to contend with its bite or its deadly slam. So Little bit fun bit of information. As the Valakar becomes more injured, it will retreat back into the planet's surface. And you'll need to make sure that your ground vehicles stay alive or have backups to bait out the creature again, as well as keeping it interested. So the big question, in a game like ours, how are we going to
I'm just
communicate
going to skip through this.
health
Thing is, I can't quite remember where this
things
is,
being
so what I don't
physicalized
want to
at the
do is
heart
skip
of
too
Starsis
far.
Valakar. Well, because it's fun, but I know you sweaty gamers, so it's got loot, also known as harvestables. The Valakar has two very valuable harvestables.
He
Firstly
basically
are its
talks
pearls.
about
You'll need to
they
mine
spawned
growths at a
one
variety of locations
near
in
an
Valakar to
outpost,
reveal these pearls.
and they had
once you've
behaviours that they
destroyed
weren't
the
expecting,
growth skin, you'll see disgusting
which is
squidgy
very
innards.
cool, and that's kind of
But
going back
next
to
is
Boss's
its big
comment about it
apex
being
teeth. These are within its mouth, and you'll need a very strong tractor beam to be able to yank these things out. And these harvesters will
dynamic,
not all come out at
encounter.
the same quality. So you'll be able to learn more about that and how harvesters are going to be used tomorrow in crafting your home. So a fun thing here is you'll see the character is standing within the Valakar's mouth as well. So when it dies, it keeps its collision, meaning that you can climb on it, land ships on it, and it's essentially your playground. But this really shows how big it is.
Which is very cool.
How big is it really? Well, fun bit of information. When we first made the collision for this model, Star Engine actually gave us an error saying, like, no living thing needs to be this big. You've accidentally added an extra 0 onto the size. But to give you an idea of the sheer ridiculous scale of this monster, you'll see here an Idris. Anyone who's done Xenothreat knows how big the Idris is. You feel like an ant when you're in the Idris, and this makes the Idris look small. There's also an Aegis Avenger Titan here as well, but if you look even closer, there's actually a Copion in this image. I'll give you a second to try and spot it. There it is. So well done to anyone who spotted it. So it's big. So for some fun numbers, it's 250 Copions long, 47 Aegis Avenger Titans long, and for our American friends, that's about 3.5 football fields. But lucky for our Copion friends, the Valakar actually comes in different sizes. So you'll be familiar with the variants we've done before with our quasi-grazers and our Copions. They're in different biomes and they have different aesthetics.
This is cool.
But moving on, we want to also
I
introduce
remember a
different creature
conversation here
sizes.
about how I didn't think we were going to see this
These
within a year.
sizes will have unique behaviors, animation, audio, and harvestables associated to each size. So for our first size, we have the juvenile. These juveniles will respond to stimulus such as noise.
What's interesting here is I've seen a lot of comments online and that about, wouldn't it be great if you got this when you got attacked when you were mining and stuff. Lives near mineral deposits. So that. And these are the guys at Hathor, so when you do the Hathor event and the dish starts moving, the entire building starts shaking. Of course, that's what brings the juvenile Valakar up, and then you fight them. Pretty resilient, seem to take most damage from ballistic rounds. I know the Volt weapons seem to struggle with them a little. Take out an FS9 or a P6LR and they go down pretty quick. But yeah, that's pretty thing. Say that again for crafting and base building. No, absolutely not. I can say it because they won't be, right? But
noisy footsteps and loud mining beams. This will cause them to burst out the ground
I cannot
and attack
remember
anyone who's disturbing them. And you'll find these in caves near valuable harvestables and minerals.
Where he says it. So we'll watch it through.
So for our next size, adults. The adult Valakars
And I believe these are also in
However, if you exterminate too many juvenile
the
Valakars,
research
this will cause
facilities
adults to show up, which are
they
3
certainly
times
seem bigger
larger
than the
and a lot
juveniles,
more
although
active.
it might just have been a
Creature
video that I
sizes are
watched.
great because they allow us to create varied experiences as well as show you how creatures grow and evolve in the environments they live in and grow up in.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we have our Apex, which has the most valuable harvestables and the most deadly attacks. It's also the biggest living thing in the verse, so far. So, in summary, this is the first in a large series of Apex creatures.
It might
that you
not
need to
even be
gather
in
your crew
this,
together
but if
to
not,
take down this mighty beast. You need a diverse
tell you what I
lineup
was-
of ships, ground vehicles, loadouts, and skill sets
Said,
to
there's a
take
little
out
bit
the
left
Apex
here.
Valakar. Everyone at CIG is incredibly excited to get the Valakar into your hands, and we hope it shows that we're not only doubling down on creatures, we're also committed to bringing you gameplay experiences that only a game of our scale can provide. But that's all for the Valakar, for this Valakar. Let's take a look at some other fauna. Now, the Valakar is very exciting, but I also want to share with you the bigger picture for creatures. So let's start with some Valakar variants. Variants so far have typically just had alterations to their loot and appearance.
So they say it somewhere within the variant. They basically said that what they had was they had an experience where they spawned one of these next to an outpost, right, on a planet's surface. What they then witnessed was the two systems, which have not been designed to engage with each other yet. The people of the outpost started attacking the Valakar, and the Valakar responded by attacking back at the people at the outpost. And this is why building these systems that aren't just designed to respond to the player for one system, like Resource Network, the idea that they could put this into anything, bases, facilities, ships, stations, whatever, and it still function, means that you get these systems that start to interact with each other. You know that if you're going to go to a space station, if it's built on the Resource Network, you may well be able to disable their, to cut the power, to kill their radar, to do all this sorts of stuff, right? Even if it's only temporarily, you might be able to really do some damage and change the way an encounter works. And that was what was really interesting about what they said about the Valakar, was that the game just started responding. The the outpost people, the code recognized the Valakar as a threat. They started engaging. The Valakar went, well, if you're going to start on me, I'm going to start on you. And they witnessed an entire fight, which is very, very cool. Hey, Shittyface, I think the normal Valakar is stronger than the Stormbreaker one. Being irradiated, it also behaves like it's sick. Yes, and I think someone mentioned that earlier, that they were saying that it wasn't supposed to be quite as strong. If they don't add the aquatic Valakar to the Area 18 municipal work sewer system, they're missing a trick. Very possibly, or even the adult ones would be quite scary. So I'll just let it play while we're talking, because you can see some of there's one of these is an absolute nightmare fuel. It's from Prometheus, I think, or it's definitely inspired that thing. That's just pure nightmare fuel. That's utterly terrifying. You can keep that. That thing haunts my nightmares. The Pioneer will be ready in 1 year epoch, says Stimpack. I think the normal Valakar is stronger than the Stormbreaker one. Yeah, and that. So yes, some very kind of interesting looking fauna and stuff. So that's really cool that they've kind of included that within the... What's the word I'm looking for? The code is reacting like that. So all these systems that we've had built, all these things that people told us weren't going to work very well together, and that, well, it looks like they are. It really does look like they are. So I think the part you mentioned about appearing at somebody's base was in the following SCL, not the Citizen presentation. Might well have been, yeah, absolutely. Shady Face, exactly that. Hathor Valakar's fight NPCs there and vice versa. And they haven't had to program that because that happened at CitizenCon. I'm sure they tweak it. I'm sure they add that, and they'll need to make different changes in there to make that work. But yeah, I'm gonna give you some volume back on the music. So yeah, Stormbreaker is here. What I do like about this, the gunsmiths and the scientists, they're doing all their, they're doing a little bit more. The video that intros into this, and I won't load it from here, maybe I'll bring it up. If you haven't seen the 4.2 Stormbreaker intro, it's really quite something. Whoever did that at CIG needs something of a raise, right? Because it's very atmospheric. It's almost kind of horror-esque. So let's have a quick look. I don't know why I keep ending up with the captions on after a little while. Maybe it's just CIG defaults to them, maybe. But let's have a look.
Day 96. This is it. The breakthrough I knew
It keeps
would happen.
switching between.
The specimen holds answers far beyond their comprehension.
Anything called
They
Lazarus, you know it's
serve
bad.
my purpose. They need an end to the regen crisis, and I will deliver it. Despite my colleagues'
This jumping between what it should have been and what it is.
That is why I am essential. Where they see life, my mind sees the design. The data locked in flesh that must be harvested. Science will not cower to moralistic fear. Progress requires clarity, not sentiment. To discover is to survive. To evolve is to rule. Once again, they put their future in the hands of science.
It does look kind of ill, doesn't it? The way it's not as quick.
Its results. It's my responsibility to push forward. I must. I will save us all.
Yeah. That's literally just a hangover, isn't it? We fucked up. So yeah, I mean they've done a really good job with that. Just a great looking location, and okay, of course they are PvP centrals at the minute. For two reasons really. One, everybody knows where they are. And if you don't know quite where the facility is, it's because you catch a shuttle there. And even though there are 3 shuttles, you still know to defend, right? And especially if you can like get the arrival schedule down pat, you don't need much to defend, right? You use a grenade launcher, it knocks people over. When they're trying to get out, you know where everyone's going to be because they've all got to come through that door. It's not great, right? You're already in an intense position. We saw this with Siege of Orison. It didn't go particularly well, right? It just didn't. Anyone who wants to get in and do PvP in that scenario, you have the advantage if you get there first. It's just that. So yeah, I found the bit about being at someone's base, SCL Q&A, characters and creatures, 945-ish. Fantastic. We'll go and have a look at that in a little bit, John. Thank you for that. I'll go and see if I can find it whilst I'm clicking around and talking to you guys. But yeah, quite an impressive intro. Now, a couple of things on this that you know people seem to. One of the things that CIG said that seemed to upset a lot of people was that this was going to be the next step in exploration gameplay. Now, I did say to you a little while ago that I was going to do a video on this, and I was going to release the video, and there was going to be something else that I said. I think there are 2 parts to this, basically. The first one is that people were warned, right? People said that it was kind of a reskin of other events, you know, that it was a reskin of Siege of Orison, and it was a reskin of other things, and, you know, that, right? That they would have loved to have seen a whole other range of things happening, you know, they would have loved to have seen dropships get immunity to distortion damage, they would have loved to have seen ground vehicles be able to drive to this location in the storm that no one else can get to. The problem with all of that is we got exactly what we were asking for, and now we're whinging about it, right? So we were told, stability, we can't do much new stuff. We can do a little bit of new stuff, we can't do much. And we all went, yeah, shut up and fix the game. So they did, and now we're whinging that we're not getting new stuff fast enough. And it only took, 3 months for that to happen? You know, the idea of, well, ground vehicles can drive there. Sure. How? How are ground vehicles going to drive there? How do you know where it is? Ground vehicles don't have quantum markers. So how do you find the location? You don't, right? That requires something new that we don't have yet. but people are still whinging about it, right? Dropships should be immune to distortion damage because it would have made dropships useful. Agree, 100%. We don't have immunity to that damage yet. It's not in, right? And I know it's a code thing, but it still requires them to fix it on dropships and all that sort of stuff. And then what happens? Does that immunity extend to other distortion damage? If you go up against fighters with distortion damage, do those dropships now completely just ignore it? Like, how does that work? Right? Again, something new that we don't have. And it was really interesting to me to watch the community turn on itself, or turn on what it said it wanted. And despite the fact us being warned, despite the fact that there was an almost a 3-hour Star Citizen Live telling us, this is how this is going to work, because this is what you want, and blah, 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 and everyone, yeah, shut up, fix the game. And then the next complaint that we have is, well, what you're doing is it's just using the systems we already have. To which everyone at CIG probably quite justifiably went, of course it's just using the systems. That's what they said to us. So it's really interesting as someone who's watching this unfold to see this happen and wonder why people think that they're justified in doing it, right? Because whether you support that or not, whether you think they should be focusing on stability, that's what they're doing. Yeah. If someone turned around and said, well, I won't be baking any cakes for the next 3 months because I'm going to be really busy at work. A month and a half later going, well, fucking hell, I haven't had any cakes. Of course, I made it about food, right? But, so you see what I mean? So yeah, so that's been kind of interesting. FPS only Hathor. Yeah, I mean, this is the interesting bit. And the other bit that I want to kind of talk about here is the exploration. I think we kind of did this 2 weeks ago, but I can't quite remember. Is the talk about it being an exploration event. And I can see what they meant. I don't think it is, but I see where they're going with that. If you take something like the Hathor facility and take the quantum marker off it and put it somewhere in the middle of nowhere, you could figure out what that is. With the cues that are around the blue keycard to red keycard to getting the blade, that terminal that shows you how everything's connected to a platform as well, the platform being there, I think all of that is exploration. And what they're basically talking about is these sorts of locations, if you just happen across them and you've got to figure it out, and the audio logs there and everything else give you hints as to where you're going and what you're doing, that is what I want from exploration gameplay. I want to happen on some sort of location, be it a research facility. And if it is a combat exploration thing, so you go in but you're going to have to fight and you don't want to do it, then you move on in exactly the same way that you won't take FPS missions. Because if every exploration mission had no combat in it at all, was just you running around doing jumping and mantling and everything else puzzles, people would get really bored with that too. So I think it works. It makes sense, right? Imagine, I mean, and Hathor's probably a little bit of a bad example for only one reason, and that's because the platform's obvious from space. So you can see the platform from a long old mile away, so, it doesn't have to be something that you kind of stumble upon to find. You can see it from a great distance. Imagine the same Hathor, but instead of connecting to a platform, they connect to a mining rig that's in a crater. So exactly the same thing. Instead of going up to the station, you fight your way onto this little mining platform and then fire it into the ground. So it does exactly the same thing, but finding those little locations, finding things that then go, okay, you found this outpost, and it talks about another outpost at this location on this planet that you're not, and then going off to find out what's there. That, to me, is a lot of like exploration. People that are in chat, if you are an exploration nut, if that's where you want to go, is this what you had in mind? Because the idea that we're going to be like discovering lost civilizations in this game, like we're going to go off and we'll discover the Star Citizen version of the Aztecs, is lunacy. They can't do that, right? With however many players we've got, how many people are going to discover lost civilizations? 1, 2. So They should have said FPS puzzle exploration. I mean, yeah, I mean they should have said a lot of things, right? But what they said in there was that exploration requires them to create locations that then enable you to go and do stuff. And the problem is, if you take combat out of the game, and it's not mining, and it's not salvage, and it's not repair gameplay, even though that's not quite there yet anyway, right? And it's not cargo running, there isn't anything to do. So the idea later on of hacking and doing all that sort of stuff, it was a video for, I think, the Santoki Eye. It might have been the other one, the Car2Al, I think. And it was, no, it wasn't. It was the ad for the Banu Defender. That's what it was. And, you know, the person goes to, in fact, I'll see if I can find it while we talk. I hate that I get flashbanged every single time I do that. Let's have a look. There you go. This is exactly what I'm talking about, right? You come to a location, you find something, right? And it leads you to something really quite impressive. Now, if there are a couple of people to kill here, it doesn't stop it being exploration.
You sure this is the right place?
You see how old this is, right?
All right. Good enough for me.
What's quite interesting is it kind of looks like the person from Mercury Solomon thing as well, a little bit. Just saying. So, you know, cuts the way in. We don't have that gameplay yet, but coming in, discovering stuff. What is this? What is that? This is clearly not something that we're familiar with. Haven't seen this in the verse before. Being able to scan individual items to give you information about them in FPS. Don't have that yet. We can't do that. I mean, that's a bit obvious, right? It's literally drawings of that. But this sort of, there's a Banu cube here, huh? Maybe the Banu cubes do something, and the ones we got at, like, Bar Citizens and stuff are just something else random. Yeah, but you find these items, you solve the puzzle. And the fact that Alien doesn't make it exploration, it's that sort of stuff. Found a Banu Defender. Ta-da! Very cool. Right? So this is the point that I'm kind of making, is I'll kill the audio and just let that continue for a bit, right? This is the point that I'm making about these locations. All you have to do with the ASD stuff that we have at the moment, the Stormbreaker, is take them off, move them so nobody knows where they are, and take the markers away. And they will be things that you find organically. And of course, people are going to find them and go, hey, you get to this location, head on this bearing, fly for 160 kilometers and you'll find it. Of course they're going to do that. And that's actually going to happen in the game as well. Funny, because I said reunion, isn't it? You're going to let me pause or not? Hello? Good. No, pause. Thank you. Yeah. So it's discovery and not really exploration. Okay, Rash, what's the difference? What's the difference between discovery and exploration? Thank you, Chavez. I'll have a look in a second, mate. And this is the point, right? You can see now where they talked about Starchitect having clusters of stuff in an area, right? Clusters of buildings, outposts, and them all being on a theme, right? The idea that what you do is you go to these locations and then the gameplay becomes, and I hate to say this because it's such a buzzword, but the gameplay becomes emergent. The idea that Hathor is emergent gameplay because there's no mission. You don't get a contract. No one's telling you. It's not signposted. You don't go to a quest giver. You don't get the markers, you don't go there, you don't do all this. There's no fail condition. So if you get part way through it and go, do you know what? I've managed to get 2 red key cards. I was about to get the 3rd, but a group of players has turned up and it's me on my own. Do you know what? I'm good. I found a piece of armor that I wanted. I'm going to get out now rather than lose it all. That is great. Yeah. We had to explore to get through it, says Upteryx. I'm getting into Dr. Jarrett's office, look about 30 minutes. Yeah. Apart from knowing the worm was in Pyro, our group did this spoiler-free. First run through was awesome and took 3-ish hours. Finding the clues to the maintenance keycard was super cool. Yeah. Carbide Edge. Hello, mate. Welcome in. I don't recognise the name. If you have been here before, sorry, I've missed it, but welcome in. Perhaps they should show off one location and have 3 hours ready at the same time that aren't known. People will still whine it's not exploration. Yeah, and that's it. And to some people, it's not, right? It's not their feeling of exploration. And that's why I've asked Rash what the difference is between discovery and exploration, right? Is that it might just be a difference of the way we view things. And that makes sense completely. Oh, no, Maxwell, welcome in, buddy. No drama. We're talking about... a little bit ago, now that Stormbreaker's in and everyone's got hold of it in the PU, or at least got access to it if they want, I'm defending what they've said about it being exploration. It's combat-heavy exploration, but I also want that, right? I want to come across scenarios where I go, all right, I'm engaging in exploration gameplay, and we've all done it before, right? You come up across a scenario and you think you're going to do one thing, and you're like, do you know what? I am just in the mood to go slaughter 30 NPCs, so I'm going to go do it. And then I'm going to go back to exploration, right? I'm going to go do some slaughtering, do some looting, and then I'm going to go back to exploration. Or I'm out of supplies, almost out of supplies, I'm running out of food and drink. I have no choice. I need to go and attack this location and try and stock up again. Or whatever it is, right? Maybe they've got some components I need because I've done it, or I've got one on the blink. Whatever it is, right? The way they sod exploration, you're going to the unknown. Discovery, you're going to known places and what you can find. Everything is thinking Star Trek exploration. I agree, and that was the point that I was going to get to, which is it's not going to be Star Trek, right? The idea that, I know they said that when they find new star systems, we'll get to name it. That is so far into the future that I would hazard a guess that it's going to be something that's going to be talked about for a very long time. We might not ever get there. And I know that sounds hypocritical, having just talked about the whole, the Sandworm and that. But when you think we've got so many systems that we're expecting them to add, like 100 of them, that they've said they're going to have 5 by 1.0, they've got to do 20 times that just to fulfill the amount. I think, are we up to 109 systems or 110 from the funding tracker? It's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy for them to get there. To then start adding new systems and allowing us to name it and stuff. That's going to be a long old way down the road. Avi says, to me they're interchangeable, though to me if they do stuff like this for the FPS, how do they make the space exploration anything? I mean, asteroid bases would still be FPS. Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's where it comes to things like finding minerals, finding gas clouds, that sort of stuff. Because I think that's always been the extent of exploration, is you always go there on foot in the end, right? It's always the thing with Star Trek and all that sort of stuff. Is that anything you always kind of end up going there in person. So yeah, I haven't heard about diseases and stuff for medical gameplay. No, so yeah, again, that's gonna be miles down the road. Naming new star systems in ED makes sense. Here, how we have 10 years of dev and 2 systems. Yeah, that's it. And I think that's a really interesting point that we raise here, is that there is a very obvious reason that the Stormbreaker event is very combat heavy. If you take combat out, there's nothing else to do, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be exploration gameplay with, shooting. It would be mining. It would be salvage. It would be cargo hauling, just with stuff you've got to find. And I agree that there will be elements of all of this. Yeah, and there's no reason these things can't be intermingled. Like, part of your discovery, part of your exploration, whatever you want to call it, is you find a crashed ship and it's got a very rare component to it. So that's your exploit. You've explored to find it, and now the reward is you use salvage gameplay to remove the component or whatever else, right? And then all of a sudden, exploration becomes more about being prepared. So it becomes about, you know, having a extreme heat suit and an extreme cold suit and a radiation suit and a, you know, whatever the other things are going to be that they have in the game. Exploration has such large connotations, says Carbide. It'll be expanded far beyond 1.0, besides even new systems getting dropped. Yeah, 100%. And this is the thing, this is the beauty of... I know everyone hates live service, you know, but they have said many, many times, and they've never wavered from this message, that actually when 1.0 comes in, they've said 1.0, we keep calling it release. What they say is subtly different, but it is an important difference. What they say release is, or 1.0 is going to be, is where everything is put into the game at a standard that would be expected for a released game. And it's not quite the same thing. Right? So what they're saying is now, the tier 0 implementation that we're getting is not going to happen. Like the inventory system, if everyone remembers. Do you remember being on the public transport and arming yourself up from your own inventory? That was tier 0, because now you have to go to a terminal, and then later on everything's going to be physicalized, so everything will be called up and, you know, put into bins and all that sort of stuff at the moment, and you'll physically take it out and put it on, rather than what we do at the minute, which is just drag and drop from a menu, right? That's tier 0. So we won't have any more tier 0. That doesn't mean that once at 1.0, we won't be up to Planet Tech V8, V9, V10, V11, V64. You know, it's just going to happen. So exactly that, Carbide. They're just going to keep adding. And if something comes in cool, and it means you've got loads of cool possibilities for loads of other systems that don't yet use it, they'll go back and they'll add all that sort of stuff. And this is what they've said. This isn't me. This isn't one guy on YouTube deciding that this is what they're going to do. This is what they've said. They're going to continue adding, and that the patch cycle, the previous patch cycle of one patch every 3 months, is going to continue until this game dies. So that's, which is really exciting for the rest of us, because it means, you know, people are going, oh, I really want, for example, what Matthew said, medical. Some people might be really happy with the state of medical now, but they're going to add it, because there'll be other people, as Matthew said, well, they said they were going to add this, and they're going to add this, and we haven't had it yet, and there's a really cool possibility for that, and it makes sense, because it links to all these other systems. In any other game, once it's in, and they go, yeah, that's it, and we're releasing and we're moving on to something else now, it's very, very rare, read almost unheard of, for them to then go back and look at that system again, and change it, and keep adding to it. Not so much this game. This game is just going to continue to develop. I've long said, you know, privately in Discord, link of which, by the way, is down in the description if you want to come join. I've long said that they're not so much building a game as they are a universe simulator. This idea that they're now creating soil maps and densities and qualities and all this sort of stuff, they are building systems that in the future will enable them to do some incredible things very, very quickly. But we'll see. Yeah. Yes, Matthew, exactly that. So the PI wanted. I tell you what, when that mission comes back, because it's broken at the minute, server meshing broke it. When PI wanted comes back, I am going to be all over that. It's incredible. It's so good. We'll take a look at it when we come back. PI wanted non-combat investigation mission, just chef's kiss. Yeah, very, very cool. I was just exploring my fridge and I discovered a cold Cronenberg 1664 stim pack. Nice. Unfortunately, mate, because I'm at work tomorrow, I'm on the Coke Zero. But yes. Maxwell says, I'm just disappointed not to use the vehicles on Pyro 1. Yeah, so we were talking about that. So it would absolutely be a great opportunity, Maxwell, to get ground vehicles in. But like we said, one of the things that I kind of got a bit frustrated at the community about is, or elements of the community, they told us no new systems over and above what they needed for the story. So yes, we've got Valakar in, and you know, they've added door scanning, and we've got area radiation, and radiation's been added now, but that's all in support of the story, and they're obviously ready to add those systems. It's been very interesting, actually, to see that all of these systems that they've added for all the missions, not one of them appears to have slipped. Which is interesting, right? None of these events have been, excuse my language, shit-canned because they couldn't get the system in time. And that's something else, I think, CIG, it's worthy to go, do you know what, CIG are getting this right. But the reason ground vehicles obviously wouldn't work is there's no map marker system for them at the moment. And people might say it's easy to put that in. Yes, it is, but it's still a new system. And they've said that they are focusing on doing events, or sorry, they're doing the story within the confines of what we have. And great, they've added some stuff, you know, but then it just becomes an argument of, well, I wanted them to add this, and then everyone's got their own view on it, right? If you could add one thing, you ask 100 Star Citizens, you know, you could add one thing to enhance that event, what would it be? You're going to get 50, 75 different answers, right? So there's always going to be that issue. I agree with you, going forward, this would absolutely be a great example of where vehicles will come into their own. I'm 100% with you. So yeah, yeah, I'm with you all the way. So yes, going down. Exploration is more exploitation and player trap. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about that in terms of, again, this is the way that they're having to do it. It doesn't mean that's the way they have to do it in the future. It's just within the current limitations. After 1.0, you can't ask CIG for a refund. Up for 1.0 to maybe refused. Yeah, so there's not a lot now. There's not a lot of grounds, certainly in Europe, for asking for refunds anymore. You know, and it is what it is, right? I think, and this is why I try to say to people, at least, and I know a lot of other content creators do as well, and I know a lot of people from the community do, is try the game. There are enough free flies, you know, and the game's not going anywhere. It's not like if they wait for the next free fly now, they're going to miss a bunch of stuff. More likely now, given the fact that we're getting almost monthly content updates, but still, you're not missing that much. I still think they shouldn't have labelled it exploration. They just did it to act as though it was a huge new gameplay loop. I understand you can describe it as XP, and in the end, it will be. But if someone said describe the new event, no one would say exploration. They might not call it exploration, but I think I would certainly describe elements in there of what I want as an exploration game. Like I said, finding a location, going down, trying to figure out what's going on. That indication that there's a reason for it to exist. At the moment, the underground facilities have no reason other than being a mission location. Even the distribution centers. Remember those when they added those and they were going to be massive mission hubs, and now we don't see anything of them anymore. I don't know. Maybe server meshing broke it. I don't know. But yeah. You know, even those were going to be mission hubs. They were going to be raids. They were going to be dungeons. They were going to be, you know, go and nick stuff, all that sort of stuff. It was all still very much mission based. Hathor, for example, Stormbreaker, for example, there's no mission. There's no nothing else. You rock up. You do as much as you want. You leave. You go when you've got your result. You know, it's not like one thing happens and you fail. You're out of there. You know, you pick up some armor you want. You put it on while you're there. Even if you get killed, you've at least escaped with something. So. Yeah, I think the biggest strength is big news is the zero set in stone points. Everything is on the table to be changed and worked on. Exactly that. And I think that's the really important thing with the game at the moment, is that, you know, we've got to remember that what's coming in at the moment is a test bed. So the Valakar are coming in as they are. They're figuring out how they work. They're seeing how we break them, because I'm sure we will. They'll then expand that out to be, you know, as we saw there, juvenile Valakar around mineral deposits. So at some point, you might be up mining in a geo, or a rock, or maybe even foot mining, might trigger an attack by a Valakar, right? And some sort of warning. But that's going to need some warning system to that, rather than just popping out of the ground, which we don't have yet. Hence the reason you don't need that for the event, because going in, or the event, I know it's not, but you don't need that for Stormbreaker. When you go into Stormbreaker, you know you're going to engage it. When you go to Hathor, you know when you put the blade in and the dish starts to align, you're going to encounter the Valakar. You don't need that warning sound. The Copian have a warning, because you hear the growls. So and their calls that they make. So yeah, I think just being there, having this Valakar pop up behind you and hit you when you've got a gun out, your mining tool out, and you're focused on something, it's not great. You want some sort of warning that that thing's coming, right? If you want stuff to creep up on people and have no warning, that's the Boreal Stalker, as far as I'm concerned, right? So yeah, professions will only become bigger and more specialised, and that's a good thing. Agreed. Loved running those investigation missions, says Sloth. Was a great way to track down caves and do some mining after the job is done. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that was the finding the people at the bottom. The PI wanted mission, Sloth. I'd be interested to hear if you've ever done that. Was the Gundo Kovalek shipping hub mission, not the collect the boxes. You went there and it was all audio logs. It was all done, almost all done through audio. There was a couple of things you had to read, but that was kind of you were lifting messages off of computer terminals. You found items, you found audio logs that you listened to, and this mission has been around for years. It's now been removed because server meshing broke it. When it comes back in, I will do a full playthrough and upload it, and we might even do it on stream as well. But PI Wanted was... What I loved about PI Wanted about more than anything else was it was very atmospheric, floating around a station that had obviously suffered a catastrophic failure. It was a pain in the ass because it was on the old EVA system, and sometimes your character would just spaz out. But the other thing that I absolutely loved about it is you decided when you had enough information. So you collect information and you decided when to submit your findings, and then the mission would react and the audio file would react. Basically the person who hired you would respond to you based on the information you've given them, which is really, really cool. Really, really cool. Just so good. Yeah, exactly that, Tech. Exactly that. So yeah, just 2 thumbs up on the Zamanian live stream. Serious question marks. Thank you, Stack. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you do want to, if you're enjoying the conversation, and this sort of stuff is something you enjoy doing on Sunday evening, it honestly does help. I promise. So I would appreciate if you did. Carbide says, I think CIG is just trying to keep the player base entertained with some content. They could make more exploration by just not plotting these locations in our nav, I suppose. 100%. And it does, and what I really like about that, Carbide, you make a very good point. What I really like about it is if you look at these locations, they are serious, kind of a saying event in terms of something that you have to do, a moment in time. You find the blue key cards to get the red key cards, to get the alignment blades, to put the alignment blades in, to shoot the Valakar, to do the other alignment blades, to go up to the station, to get the mining laser, to fight your way, to fight your way to get the key card, to fight your way out, to land on the planet, to fire the laser, to go to the location, to mine, to get away, right? The fact that they've added these locations, which, as you say, all they've got to do is move them and remove any markers. Now you're into exploration, because now they are things that you will stumble across as you are exploring, that you can choose to engage with or not, and you can choose to engage for as long as you want, for as long as you're enjoying it, for as long as you're finding it rewarding, for as long as it takes to get what you need, which is going to be really important with reputation. Because if they did that by missions, and you're sat down there going, I took this mission to get my rep up with this company, because this is like my last chance saloon. If I fail this, they're going to stop giving me missions. You're down there and you're doing really well, and all of a sudden, 8 people from an org turn up. What are your choices? Get repeatedly killed by the org, or quit the mission, stop getting rep, right? And this is why it's really important. And then the rep becomes about what you hand in and what you do with the stuff that you get. I think that's a really nice thought. So yeah. I really hope they make roads with base buildings. It was super fun in Halo doing sketchy racing maps. I mean, they might well do. They did say that putting roads in would be similar to the river mapping tool that they have, in terms it would be the same, that it would pick out a way to go, that it wouldn't be ridiculous. You just have to change some of the values. But that's kind of cool, right? Also, Gib Waterfalls. Can't wait for that, because if we know anything about games, right? If you've even gamed for 5 minutes, you know that if there's a waterfall, if you go under it, there'll be something cool. And if not, it's not really a good game. Refund. Get your money back. Like, imagine exploration could be an abandoned mining outpost that got shot up. You had to go in with the right power plants and fuses to replace the broken ones. That. Exactly that. And that's the other end of exploration, right? You've got the industrial exploration, you've got the discovery, you've got the mapping, you've got the... And this, eventually they will, but you can see all they've got to do is take the Hathor locations, remove the markers, and change the locations of them. Make them something you've got to go and find. And I genuinely think, given what they've said about Star Architect, given that statement that they made in the Star Citizen video a couple of weeks ago, that is exactly what they're intending to do. And they're going to do so many of them that there won't need to be guide videos, because it's not a case of, at the moment, if you want to do this, there are 4 Hathor locations and however many Stormbreaker locations, right? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think going forward, there are going to be loads of them. They're going to be slightly different from each other, if not massively different from each other. And it's going to be a case of, well, I could do a video, but there's so many of them. Like, you'll find one eventually, and it'll be exciting, and it'll be something that you'll go figure out for yourself. I'm hoping that's what they're aiming for, because that would be, incredibly exciting. I've attempted the Kovalex investigation mission a while back. Was insanely good environmental storytelling. Glad we got another taste of it with the Reclaimer mission by Area 18. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you've got to try that. I think, genuinely, when PI Wanted comes back, and it has to come back, because it's that good. No combat, unless you end up bumping into other players. It's very, very clever story. And it's probably the most immersed I've been in any of the stuff in Star Citizen. And purely because everything was audio. It wasn't even a face. They didn't even have the face over IP. It was just a comms message to you from the wife of someone at Gundo who wanted you to go figure something out for her. Very, very cool. So yeah, the story changed a little. 8 people from an org turn up. Waves fist at the sky, down you orgs. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Doesn't even have to be 8 people from an org. Well, so, I mean, sometimes you get 8 people from an org and 2 of you sit there and really upset their plans. I mean, I might have done that once or twice. But yeah, to be fair, they started it. They shot my Terrapin medic up. They started it. Everything that happened after that was entirely their own fault. Lol. Okay, so I'm going to jump across. Let's see what else is going on. So we've had a look. It's probably worth looking at the moment that the Anvil Asgard is still the upgrade offer for 4.2. So you can upgrade to it now, and whatever value that is. I can't remember, $350 if you want it. So great. I know I just get told off after streams if I don't. You didn't say what the CCU was, or the Warbond CCU. So that's what the CCU is. Okay, let's jump across. Stimpak says, they make it so that once you've discovered a location, you can see the marker, you can explore at any later date, but no marker prior to discovery. Yeah, and this is where cartographers are going to come in important, right? When they showed us in the 2023 CitizenCon, right, they showed us the star map and the mapping inside its ships and locations. They actually showed you a map terminal that you go up to, and this is going to be part of exploration. This is going to be, and we've got it because there are medals and stuff, the cartographers, map makers, right? So when you go to, imagine wherever it is you live, right? And I come visit, and we're going to go out and we're going to go have a meal somewhere, or we're going to go out and have some drinks, right? I'm going to be able to go, oh, well, there's the well-known pub, and there's the well-known chain restaurants, and the whatever else I can find on Google Maps. But those really cool local locations that you know because you live there versus the tourist locations, that's going to be the mapping difference I would expect in Star Citizen. So you're going to have those who, when you rock up, you're going to know where the major landing zones are, and you're going to know where some of the distribution centers are, and that sort of stuff. The stations. The big tourist locations. And as you find stuff, you'll add them to your maps. And that's where people who operate in the same system will have an advantage over those who don't. because they will be constantly expanding their knowledge and those markers, exactly as you said there, Stimpack, about what's in a system. And they'll be adding it to their map, and then they will sell that at significant profit to everybody else. Or not, as the case may be. It's those sorts of things. And then, without going too far down the rabbit hole with this, can you imagine if you could do that with your org, but to update everyone in your org, rather than just saving it as an org waypoint, what happens if what you have to do is you have to transmit it to them? Or you have to save it to something, like a memory stick or a secure drive or whatever, like in a Herald or an MSR or any of the other data running ships, and then you have to transport it to your org computer, your org data store, right? Which means that you might be intercepted. If you transmit it, it will be quicker, it will be easier, but a higher chance of people intercepting it. And what if data running isn't just cargo by another name? So instead of me picking up a little cargo box, I pick up something that looks like a data drive, but it's still something that I just need to deliver. Instead of that, which is pretty boring, what happens if data running is about, hi, test. I found some of Test's org locations in data running. I hacked it, and I found some of their locations. And I don't know what they are, I've just got what they called them. But I'm going to sell them to you. Right? So you sell them to one of Test's rivals. Do you see what I mean? How data running could be such a different way of doing that in-game. It could be... I mean, I don't know of another game that would do that. But it's still information that needs to go one way or the other. And this is why, a while ago, I suggested that they should remove coords from being visible. Because we don't have them in-game at the minute, right? Not usable ones. If I asked anyone in-game now, where are you? I don't think I've ever been told, or ever had anyone being told, in-game coordinates. It's always been, oh, we're at this location or whatever else. If you remove that, and make everything something that you would have to send in-game, it becomes a very interesting possibility where I don't just get to say, oh, just put a marker in at these coordinates, it's the same thing over voice, because it completely destroys that game system. If you don't know those coordinates, if you don't know where those coordinates are, do you see what I mean? So yeah, you need an official CCU of the Week segment badges with a jingle and everything. Absolutely not. You know I hate talking about money and upgrades and stuff. It rankles me enough that I need to talk about CCUs at all. Also, on that note, remind me, just say to me towards the end, if I forget, just shout fleet at me a lot, because we need to talk. I think I need an intervention, but we'll come back to that in a second. So yeah, clip that the wrong way and DGP start 1.0 war with test. I mean, DGP just lose that. There's a reason we've downgraded from Friday Night Ops to Friday Night Shenanigans, right? Jackal says, how about a valuable master list fragmented into different pieces you have to collect from different events? Exactly. There's so much stuff they can do. And that's why I like, people saying, why are you being... We've all done it, right? You play the... You play the World War II game where you've got to go and destroy some artillery emplacements, right? And then you've got to go and pick that up. And you look, and the game's put this huge whack of artillery shells in the emplacement. And you go in, why don't I just throw a grenade into that lot? Like, this just makes it blow up. But of course you can't, because the shells aren't there really. They're just window dressing and all of this sort of stuff, right? Or... you hit a button to turn something off, and then you go back later to turn it on. You go, this will be really useful now. And of course, you can't turn it on because the system in the game doesn't actually exist. It's the you hit the button, and then you transition into the next phase of the game. Hello, Shadow Girl. I see you. Even if no one else can. But yes, so you have that kind of. You completely destroyed my train of thought now. You have that frustration with some games. You're like, this should be more realistic. People get frustrated at Star Citizen. Why are you making everything so complicated? A lot of it is being made so complicated because then you don't encounter that. Right? You go and pull the You go and damage the power plant of something, it's going to struggle with power. You go and pull the radar out of something, it's not going to be able to detect things. And that's why I quite like the way that they're doing this. And it goes exactly to what you're saying there, Jackal, is all of these different things will start to enable us to do some very cool stuff in game, and make things feel more realistic, right? Kingdom of Games, hello, mate. Good to see you. Welcome in. Good evening, you beautiful man. I don't know who you're looking at. It's definitely not me, but welcome in. I appreciate it anyway. You lie, but you lie well. You lie well. Thank you. I'll try not to blush. So, so yes. So your notable changes from the. God, that's really loud in my ear. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to knock that down a little bit and then turn it up for you guys, because holy moly, is that bit of music loud. So, Asperia Prowler, that's committed, that's in now, right? And then 4.2.1, so the next patch, we've got another space combat mission, the support ship. Do you know what? I'll zoom in, because I'm convinced you won't be able to read that from where you are. Adding new missions focused around escorting ships that are under immediate threat. That doesn't sound too dissimilar from stuff that we've had recently, but you know, it is what it is. New global event, adding a global cross-shard event that builds on collaboration and competition. This is interesting. This almost sounds to me, if anyone remembers back in the day, they did an Anchorage, opening the gates of Anchorage in World of Warcraft, where all the servers competed basically to get enough supplies donated to in-game NPCs to get the gates open to start the event. And it sounds very much like that. Collaboration and competition, working together with your shard against others or whatever, right? And I know the whole shard thing in World of Warcraft's more regimented than it is here, but it sounds something along those lines. The Vault laser pistol, the Pulse, introducing a powerful new pistol from Vault's specialized arsenal, a high-capacity, fully automatic sidearm that ramps up his rate of fire as it heats up. Yeah, fun stuff. Tentative as well. And then, interestingly, it says down here, the medium utility armor has been temporarily removed while we shift it to Alpha 4.3. So, something that we're getting not obviously core to the story as far as we are aware, but has been shifted one slot right, it looks like, into 4.3. So, yeah. That's what we've got with what's going on at the moment. The funding model, we are up to almost $150 million crowdfunded, which is kind of crazy. Which, looking at those, it's going to be, you know, maybe a month before we hit that, I would imagine. Maybe a couple of months at max. But yeah, it's not going to be long. I mean, the idea that in May they hit almost $29 million is just mental. They are so far away or ahead of what's going on at the minute. Obviously, last week, Thursday, we had Alien Week. Alien Week kicked off, and it wasn't a massive blip there by the looks of things. It looks like they did about 2.5 mil, maybe. Somewhere around that mark. I mean, nothing to be sniffed at, but, you know, not huge amounts. Still no crossbow, says Shadow Gal. Disappointed? Absolutely. Hang on, Chavez. We're getting there, man. I promise. I'll go and click it now, my friend. I shall go and click it now. Because it is important what you found, so I appreciate that you've gone and you've taken the time to go and find it. So let's have a look. There we are. Click. I'm going to go find it. Oh, no. Stop. Let's go back a little. Pop the volume on. Bear with me just a second because I've now broken everything else on the screen. Because of course I have. Why wouldn't I have done? There we go. Probably got far closer to the screen than I needed to there. But let's have a look at what they say here. I'm just going to kill the music in case you can still hear that. Yoink. Dead. Let's have a look.
Possibly.
I just remember in the early WoW days, before we launched WoW and everything, trying desperately to coax the world bosses into the Agrimar and Stormwind and stuff.
I'm terrified because of how systemic our game is. What happens if you take this near someone's bases and things like that? And that's the fun and beauty of. Yeah, I mean, there are Copians spawning near where NPCs are and things like that, and you can get to a place where NPCs are and they're having a fight with Copians because our game is just so systemic, and that's not something we plan. We're not like, let's put these near here. It's just how our game works.
Called Emergent gameplay, my friend.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, but if I remember what happened when I used game design terms last time, people didn't understand what I meant. So
I'm not sure you understand what you mean.
Yeah, I'm not actually employed here. I just make the glint.
There's definitely something we were talking about the Valakar as well, because they were just like to watch. They made specific reference to. But thank you. Yeah, I mean that makes exactly the same point. They've got stuff interacting because they've created these sets of rules that they weren't ever expecting. But the way they've set it up, they've got it reacting in a realistic method. It's very very, very clever. Hopefully the new event won't be like how Supply or Die went and completely crashed the economy on some goods. Yeah, potentially. If you think CRG will switch from dollar reporting to pound reporting, it would just seem more reasonable. I wonder why that is, Stack. I wonder why that is, my friend. I mean, if you want CRG's kind of pound reporting, you can always go look at their financials if you can make heads or tails of it. Really wish they'd work on more alien ships. Seems like the primary focus has been on the human ones. Yeah, I like the unique stuff. Yeah, the problem is if you make more of it, it stops being unique, right? But yeah, they have that sort of stuff going. But obviously, in terms of the UEE and stuff, at least for now, the majority of the UEE is human. So it makes sense that the ships are that way. Seems the focus is on easy ships, smalls, variants. Yeah, wouldn't expect much unique anytime soon. Absolutely. Did you see the other vid that I put on that ping? I did notice that there was something there. Oh, yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Respawning with the memories of when you died, like, after you put a clone on, after you got cloned. That apparently makes sense, but aerodynamics is where we draw the line. Know what I mean? But yeah. So, yeah, it's there's some interesting bits and pieces in there, certainly. When do you think we're getting the Apollo, and what about base building? I mean, I think the Apollo Perseus are all going to be IAW. I think there's going to be another hell of an ILW, IAE. That's what I meant to say. I think it's going to be a hell of an IAE. Because when the Perseus comes out, it's going to be like, rah! I must admit, I've not been that excited to go and play 4.2. I think it's just because I know that it is going to be PvP heavy to start off with, and that, to have that calm down and work. I certainly wouldn't mind seeing, giving it a go with some of the org. That would be good fun. But yeah, we can definitely give that a go. Super interested to show us to see how Best in Show shapes out. Yeah, absolutely. Not CitizenCon. Could be CitizenCon. It could be CitizenCon. I suppose it could equally be the Perseus at CitizenCon. Because I feel like in terms of the Perseus, has been approaching Carrack levels of hype, and of course the Carrack, we saw that at CitizenCon in 2019. So yeah, Perseus or Ironclad might come at Sitcom, with the other coming at IE. If not both at IE, yeah, it's going to be huge. If the Ironclad does come this year, Ironclad, Perseus, Apollo, plus one or more unnamed ships. We've got the Meteor coming this year, the Icti, if we end up getting that sold. Which I think that has been confirmed through someone's stream, although I still haven't seen it, so I'm still going to put a big question mark on that. Yeah. Gib alien industrial ship, says mining and says Citizen Ninja, especially mining and salvage. Yeah. So what I'd say about that is I hope that they take a while, because I hope they start releasing alien ships like that to give us not just an alien looking miner or an alien looking salvage, but change the way it works as well, which would be really quite cool. To give us like variations on the gameplay. So it's not just an alien mining ship; it's an alien mining method as well. I'd kind of look because I'd like to see what they could come up with. Maybe, that becomes later on. That becomes the whole reason for maybe going more physical with stuff. Is they go, hey, we had the feedback about Beam Citizen and all that sort of stuff, so we're going to make some of that the alien more advanced human mining or human salvage, the the fracture mode and the crunching of the ships. We're going to put that back to something a little bit more physical, and that we're going to make that the alien way of doing it, so it uses vibration and stuff. That would be cool, and a nice in-law way of doing it, and also kind of admitting that, or acknowledging the fact that a lot of Star Citizen community are not particularly happy that everything at the moment is beams. Salvage is beams, mining is beams, healing is beams, tractor beaming is beams, repair is about to be beams. Everything is a beam. Cool. Crikey, excuse me. Just gonna. Yeah, of course, Paladin as well. Um, Also, this is the same SCL. They said maybe scientists. Oh, the scientists causing the Valakar thing. Is that what you meant there? Because I think that was quite a nice way. It would not be surprising me, says Space Saga, if we get the Apollo in the final B story regen crisis patch. That wouldn't be the strangest thing ever, would it? That would make sense. It would be a great way to introduce medical gameplay for NPCs if they have plans to kind of put those contracts in. Yeah. Well, interestingly, when you boot up the game now, they said something about it's something about genetics. That some of the research is indicating that there might be a gene that makes it more successful, but it's only present in 10% of people. So that might be something to do with it as well. I'm going to wrap the fan on because it's still very warm here. Hence the reason you guys haven't had a video, because sitting up here during the day is really, really uncomfortable. So I'm hoping it doesn't get too loud, but I'm going to turn my only fan on. So yeah, that. And then get demonetized because lol. And I'm just going to lean forward ever so slightly because then I block the fans over here because the window's over here, so it blows the cool air in. I have closed the window because people have been having barbecues and stuff, and A, we probably don't want to hear what they're talking about. B, I know they don't want to hear what I'm talking about. So yeah, just checking my mic levels. It doesn't seem to be picking up too much, so that's cool. Omnipresence, good to see you, my friend. Welcome in. Good evening, or whatever time of day it is for yourself. The problem with stuff not being beams is when you make no beam stuff like fuses, it doesn't work half the time as the server can't handle it. Yeah, there is that as well. For reals. The whole collision thing with the claw and that. They've got some challenges. But I do like the idea of being able to go and grab like the circuit boards. Does anyone remember that the mission where they had to go and find they had to get a circuit board out of a satellite, a crashed satellite, right? And you were looking for a code so you can inspect it with your hands and turn it over, and you were looking for the blades. It was part of one of the what's his name over in Hurston. It was him basically, and then he sets you up and you get ambushed at the end, or at least in this demo you did. So it sets you up, you get ambushed, but you had to go and find this blade, and I thought, wouldn't that be cool, for the idea of pulling it out and looking for damage, and then once you've found what type of blade or what type of server board you need to put back in, circuit board, you run off and find a replacement and come back. That would be a really cool way to institute repair gameplay, and then you've got to keep the physical spares on board, which means not everything is given over to ammunition or cargo and that sort of stuff. That'll be cool. Omni, I'm glad to hear it, mate. I hope you're feeling better. That's good news. Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of hoping repair gameplay would go with that. That you'd in a component, you'd just have some blade or some circuit board slots. So you'd go up to it and go off. No, not that one. No, not that one. That one's damaged. Run off, get a replacement, come back and slot that back in, push it all back in, turn it on. That to me feels a lot more like repair gameplay than oh, it's repaired. Run to the next thing. But yeah, it was a cool little mission. I'll see if I can find that in the background whilst we're looking. Can't remember what it was called now, but it was it might even have been. That was the one with the Valkyrie, wasn't it? It was the first time we saw the Valkyrie. I'm pretty sure. Let's have a look. Citizen. I can't remember what it is. Doodah. I don't know why I've suddenly taken to singing either. Because nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. That's the trailer. It was part of the I can't remember which one it was. I really can't remember what it was. Star Citizen Con. Was it 2018? When was the Valk brought out? Oh, there you go. It was 2018. Woo! Well done, us. Kill the sound for now, just in case an ad pops up. My ad block has been struggling recently. I think I've got to upgrade it. I'm going to wait to switch over. I know you can't see it just yet. Don't shout at me. But yeah. Here we go. Yeah, so they've landed on where it was, Hurston, looking for a downed satellite, which is kind of cool. But then they get on it and they're trying to, because this is the one where he fails the jump, I think, and everyone just took the mick out of him for it. But he's kind of landed. You can see off to the right there on the right hand side of the screen. That's where it is. Do you remember? And you remember that old HUD over there, that way? Anyone remember those bits? Pepperidge Farm remembers. So yeah, so there's your crash satellite. Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully with the I did turn ads off. So if ads are on now, it's because YouTube has decided that for certain people it's going to do that anyway. But I none of my streams have been monetized for a long old time. But yeah, you've never seen this before, Shepard. Yeah. So I mean, it's a long old. We're a fair way through, right? There's a lot here, but I'll link the video in the chat before we call it a day. So you can go and have a watch of the whole thing. It's like an hour and a half, right? But obviously this mission never made it into the game, but it was supposed to because this is being played live. But yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, it's an interesting little mission. You know, it's got a little bit of mantling and stuff in it to the climbing up and whatnot. But you go and you find a circuit board, and then it's not here, so they have to go and find out wherever it is. But yeah, you can tell with the fire and the textures that things have moved on a little bit, can you? As you would expect, it being whatever it is 7 years ago. The mission was in the game, was it? I didn't think it was. In that case, I'm gutted I never got to do it. But because certainly at the end it wasn't, because it turned into this whole double cross. So they might have done a little bit of it. Really don't remember it being in the game. There you go. The more you know. We're still waiting on the old Microsoft mission. Yeah, the infiltrate the data centers. those entire locations that we've never seen in game. Yeah, the whole disguising yourself as people, security, NPCs flying you to locations for missions, all of that stuff. No, not here yet. Still, and this is where he screws it up, does he? There's a jump that he's got to do, and he mucks it up. Yeah, this bit I think. They kind of do the whole and then he stacks it. Data running gameplay, exactly that. Loads of stuff. Go on then, just run, jumps, misses it, stacks it. See? But yeah, so just move it on a little bit just to show you the bit that I'm talking about. Oh yeah, that's right, because he died, and then they put him back. There you go. And this is what I mean, because this sort of stuff looks familiar, right? The old interaction menu. And then you've got this, and you're looking for a blade, so he turns it over, and you've got the serial numbers at the top, and because they're looking for an experimental one, it should be XXX. But that's not what he wants, so of course he just drops it. Just like, yeah, no, don't want that. Again, because you can imagine if this is the gameplay that you're doing, you see that there's scorching, there's damage on the board. You look at the top and go, okay, this is a primary board, secondary board, tertiary board, whatever it is. So they're common to the different components. You run off, you go to wherever your stores are, go grab one, come running back, or you're carrying them on you. Maybe, there's slots for it on your armor. That's all of a sudden engineer utility armor or repairman utility armor. Makes sense. You get more slots for boards. You can maybe equip them to parts of your belt, like grenades, that other people can't, so they're having to go into their inventory, where you're just going insert, just like you do if you've got a key card on you, and they're going click, done. So there's definitely a lot of options they could have done with this, with physical repair and stuff like that. So yeah, very cool. And then there's the black box stuff as well. So yeah, I did say a little while back that we'll go and have a look at the fleet thing. Yeah, well, I mean, before we get onto that, it's probably just worth showing you guys this. There's a reason I've been flashbanged. It's because I've just gone onto the funding dashboard. Let's have a quick look. So we are some way ahead of previous years. Significant way ahead of previous years. So even against 2022, the June figures, given the fact that we're 2/3 of the way through, just over, we're ahead of August on that year. We are ahead of, September of the previous 2 years. So considerable size, or way ahead of where we were with funding before. Do we think subcomponents will still be a thing? Probably not in the first iteration. That's probably going to be like a tier 3, tier 4 thing. I hope so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they promise with components, like tuning and all that sort of stuff, that seems to have dropped off the radar. And I don't think that's because we're not getting it. I think that's because it's just a way in the future, right? Investigation contracts is my first loop I liked in Star Citizen. More contracts akin to search and locate. Yeah, absolutely. Unrelated, Kawasaki has unveiled a rideable robot horse that runs on hydrogen called Corleo, made for rough. Random, but interesting. Yeah, AI is scary. So, during Alien Week livestream, we had a look, didn't we, at the Prowler utility, and I said that I kind of liked the look of it, right? And then everyone, including a lot of you in chat, was telling me that I should go buy one, right? I am happy to report I did not buy one, nor did I CCU to one, nor did I melt and credit one. However, that did not stop a couple of people deciding that they thought I should have one. So someone got me one outright. Someone else got me something that I could CCU up from, and I did try to tell the person who got me something I could CCU. I don't know if they're happy with me naming them. So this is why I'm shying away. I'm very thankful to them, and I will mention them when I go to do a review on the utility, because I think it's probably a review. I just want to do a video on it. Just I think it gets a bad rap, looking at all the comments about it so far. But and certainly because a particular person decided that they wanted to go and shit all over it, and that's a good reason for me to do the opposite, I think. So yes, so I have a couple of extra ships in my hangar now, you know, from very kind people. Long story short, very, very kind people. So no, I didn't break, but it didn't stop me ending up with them anyway. So we will see a video out on the Prowler utility. I want to kind of put a video together about my thoughts about exploration gameplay and everything we've talked about. I'll order it and make it something sensible and not rambly like what I did earlier on, but we'll do that as well. And there's a couple other things that I want to have a look at. And then, at some point, because we've got a couple of the big military ships now, we've got the Hammerhead, we have the Idris, the Perseus is just around the corner, the Polaris is here. I think we are not far now from me beginning my series of a naval officer reviews. And we'll have a look at ships from a military perspective using my naval officer background. We will go through these ships in much a similar way as Morphologies looks at Star Citizen ships from a architectural perspective. I will look at them from a maritime military warfighting perspective, and offer my views on them, and you know, things that they might want to consider in the future, things that they're doing well, and things that just don't make sense to me at all, because I can immediately in the back of my head think of a few things on those fronts. So yeah, my hope is subcomponents will only be for capital components as a way to customize cap ships, very possibly. Robot horses are always relevant, says Tech. Are we going to get cowboy hats with the robot horses? I mean, sure, absolutely, but a robot one, right? You have to wear an aluminium cowboy hat if on a robot horse. Absolutely. Yeah, we've gone well off the beaten track with that, haven't we? But yeah, so that's where we are with my fleet now, and that is absolutely. So the ship that was the jump up was the what's it called? The Guardian MX. I don't know why that was so hard. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. I was going to have a snooze and then I didn't manage it, and now I'm grumpy. I'm grumpy and I'm tired. I just want to go home. So yeah, so now I've got a dedicated fighter in my fleet, which I didn't have before, which is really exciting because it's one of the better ones in my humble opinion, and I've got that as well. So, speaking of which, Dal, I'm sure you won't mind me outing for this, but the Prowler utility review will be coming courtesy of Dell. I just wanted to make sure that you were here, sir, before I say thank you ever so much. Again, very kind, sir, but I wanted to give you credit because I was making a big thing about I definitely didn't buy it, but credit where credit's due. You know, and if you don't want me out and you live on stream, then stop doing it. Love you, mate. Yeah, so there's that. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. So yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. It's been an interesting one. I think at the moment I'm just with the heat and everything else. I'm kind of I haven't really set foot into 4.2 other than to have a look at the Prowler utility. It has just been far too hot. That's why I've not been making videos, because up here, the UK weather's mental. We've gone from some of the warmest days in the last kind of decade here in the UK to instantly into storm warnings, because fucking UK, great. So things have cooled down rapidly since about midday yesterday, to the point where I actually had to close the window earlier, and then now I put this on, of course, everything's warmed up again. But yeah, It's been that. Yeah, it's been. So, hang on, I'll have a look at this. For our American, so, for our American brethren, it's been 91 degrees Fahrenheit here. It's peaked at 33 degrees in the UK latter part of the week. It's a little bit toasty, right? It's been a bit warm. So yeah, I'm a badger. I haven't played for 4 days. Yeah, it's been toasty. It rained a little bit yesterday for about 30 seconds, and all that did was make things unbearably humid. Because obviously it all touched the ground, instantly evaporated, and then it was just like I can't breathe because it's yeah, it's been pants. You had a tornado warning go off a few days ago. Well, look after yourself, mate. You know, be careful. 48 degrees C. You mean Fahrenheit? 48 degrees C. Behave. Where do you live? The surface of the sun? You're only going to start the That's Not Hot Discord from my Yank cousins, yeah. 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 Don't call them Yanks. Don't call them Yanks, Tech. That's disrespectful. Call them ungrateful colonials instead. That's much more accurate. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to watch my concurrent viewers tank now, as I've said that. Everyone like, no, I'm not watching the Brit again. You limey sod. But yeah. Yeah. But yes. Oh my god. I can't even. But yeah. So yes, so that's where we are at the moment. I've got no. I don't even know what they're doing next week because we've obviously had no Star Citizen Live or anything this week, which is pants. So yeah. We also had a 4-day heat wave, 35 degrees. Yeah, that's rubbish. It's been really warm. I think the UK, apparently we've had the driest start to a year for the last 100 years. So we've got hosepipe bans and all sorts of stuff going on at the minute in the UK, which is a bit rubbish. I must admit, for the last 2 nights I've slept downstairs on the sofa because it's cooler than being upstairs. So I'm looking forward to sleeping in my own bed today. That's going to be fun. But yeah, it's fine. We'll dump your tea again. I mean, we get our tea direct from China, so nah. In fact, I think we grow some of our own now, although it's not very nice. But yeah, if you not just broke your own laws, we wouldn't know how to make our own. I mean, this is all true, right? However, if we make the laws, we have to break them. That's how that works. But yes. So, don't dump the PG tips. Too good, says Dell. Yeah, Dell's had some fun over here being anglicised. So you know, we'll make an Englishman out of you yet, Dell. I promise. You know, you've already got it. You've got, oh, these sausages are disgusting. We need nicer ones. Yeah, halfway there, my friend. We've got you. You're one of us. But yes, so obviously all the normal stuff. You know, if you haven't thrown a like and you've enjoyed the stream, be really appreciative if you could. The link to the Discord, if you are not yet part of it, is below the fold. Feel free to join. Jump in. You don't have to be part of an org. You don't have to do any of that. You can jump into Discord whenever you see us in there. Trust me, if it's something that you can't join, you won't be able to see us because we'll be in one of the super secret rooms that you know are there for just that reason, to stop people jumping in when stuff's being recorded or whatever. So you'll be more than welcome to come in and be part of that, and we would very much love to have you. Yeah, and we'll see what goes on this week. I know I've been making promises and then breaking promises. I'm not going to make promises at the moment about when a video is going to come out. I know I'm behind. I'm feeling it too. It's bothering me a little bit, to be honest. But I will get there. You know me now, as I won't release stuff just because I need to release something to appease the algorithm. If I don't feel like I've got anything to say, or if I don't feel like I'm saying it very well, I won't release it. And I know that means that you guys are waiting a while for content. And I can only apologise, but I'm not going to release something unless I think it's worthy of you guys, and that will never change. So yeah, we'll figure it out as we go along, but I'm hoping to get some stuff done soon. I'll also be doing some shorts along the way as well. I will be doing basically kind of a roundup of all the information from CitizenCon in shorts format. So you can just kind of see those done, and you know, if you don't watch shorts, that's fine too. I get it completely, but you know, they do seem to be quite a far-reaching stuff. And then one of the things we did a text-based adventure based on Squadron 42, where we trained ChatGPT to do some Squadron 42 stuff. It might be quite good fun to do that as our own adventures as we get closer to the release of Squadron 42. But I'm certainly hoping to do that and be on CIG's radar when Squadron is close to being released. Not for any handouts or anything, unless they want to give me a copy of the version game to give to you guys. As long as I get to be honest with you and I don't have to say anything, you know, other than do the normal. This was given to me by CIG to celebrate the launch of Squadron 42. That would be really cool. I also have a copy of the game myself, which I now don't need, so we will be doing a giveaway anyway. However, what I won't be doing is I won't be advertising it. Because all that happens is you get a bunch of people who stay here for the giveaway and then they disappear again. And that's not rewarding to you guys. So it won't be publicised. It will just be, we'll be giving it away. I won't tell anyone else. And then we'll give it on stream. Because you guys are here all the time anyway. It should be you guys who potentially get it. Yep, one of you guys. And that's the way I'll do it. Not up for giving it giveaways because, you know, just to get other people in, because invariably they don't stay. You know, you get the wrong crowd, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, will Fridays get more love during the summer? We will try to, especially if the temperature cools down. Just at the moment, work is still very hectic. I was hoping that it would calm down. It's just not going to happen. Mackie Moose, good evening, welcome in, my friend. You know, so I tend to be pretty shattered on Friday, and sometimes I just kind of want to chill out and do that sort of stuff. Jamlak, welcome in, my friend. I hope you don't mind. Jamlak is the other person that was very, very kind enough to give me. I just wanted to say that out publicly, guys, to thank you for your kindness and you know, to let people know that, you know, I have this rather large fleet for which I am responsible for very little, because there are some incredibly kind, incredibly generous members of the community out there, and you know, love you guys for it. Yeah, the time difference is a drag for gaming, absolutely, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll get some stuff going when it calms down for everyone. And if I can be around, even if I'm just in chat when you guys are doing that, I do tend to or try to be there as much as I can. And then at some point, I will actually see Jordan Peterson live. That was supposed to be what happened last weekend. The email they sent to me to say that it had been delayed to 30th of March next year went to my spam folder. So we turned up in Cardiff and only found out a couple of hours beforehand, which wasn't as bad as it sounds. I actually get on really well with my dad, to the point where we quite happily go drinking together and all that sort of stuff. So it was actually just a nice couple of days in Cardiff, but I couldn't help but laugh the fact that we went up to hear Jordan Peterson speak and he wasn't even in the country. So that was quite funny. Cardiff, interesting city. Matthew, get there, sort it out, mate, will you, for God's sake. However, the Botanist, we went to the rooftop bar on your recommendation, Matthew, and absolutely loved it. One of my favourite places probably in the UK, actually. It was really lovely up there. And it was a sun trap. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Good recommend. So yeah, we'll see what comes out next week. I'll get a lot better. The thumbnail for this went up like 15 minutes, I think. The schedule, 15 minutes, 10 minutes before, because I completely forgot. I've just had one of those days. So yeah, it's been far too warm to do anything like that. But it's been a pleasure to see you all. We'll see what comes over the next week. And maybe on Friday we'll have a stab at Stormbreaker and maybe even record some of it. That might be quite good fun. We'll see how many people we get along. Yeah, let's see what the next couple of weeks hold. But the big takeaway from this, the Valakar's in, the worm that they said that we were never getting, it's here now. And hopefully this is the start of an upward trend for Star Citizen, delivering on all those things that we told we were never going to get. We got it. So there. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.